Over a year ago, my mother lost her ability to walk, and I shared that on this channel and in my podcast. And I had already left my corporate job. I was in human resources, and it was to become a full time coach and to take care of my mom before she lost her ability to walk. Her health was digressing, and yeah, she went to the hospital for one thing and was misdiagnosed, and it just went downhill after that, and she lost her ability to walk. So again, I left my job and there was no going back. I had no safety net, no plan B. I had said I was going all in on my business when all of this happened with my mom. So it was just me, my mom, who needed me around the clock at this point, and my coaching business, and I had to show up for my clients. And I remember sitting, crying, and praying because I felt God had called me. I knew God had called me. And I didn't know what I was supposed to do now that this happened to my mom and she needed me 24/7, but I also needed to be with my client. Like I was lost. I didn't know what to do. I'm tired all the time. I don't have the energy for my clients anymore. It was a lot. And what I heard was I didn't hear a strategy or a plan because God doesn't, He never gives us a strategy or a plan. But He said, and it was very audible, who do I say you are? And do you trust me? And that changed everything for me. Not because it made me feel better, but because it forced me to make a decision. Was I going to keep waiting for everything in my life to be perfect? Nothing, my life has never been perfect. But was I going to wait for my life to finally be perfect before I continued being a coach? Or was I just going to start acting like one, just doing the thing, right? And doing what I need to do no matter what's going on in my life, continuing to do the thing that I am called to do no matter what. So I chose to continue on in the midst of all the challenges, the being in the most challenging season in my life. And what happened next is the exact thing neuroscience has been trying to explain for decades, and the Bible has been saying for thousands of years. We've been reading it for years. It's there in plain sight. So here's what I want you to understand before I go any further. First of all, I am not in neurosciences, and I don't pretend to be one on YouTube either. I just find it fascinating and interesting because what we've read in the Bible all these years is showing up in new science, in neuroscience. It's just fascinating to me. And so I've been learning a ton because, again, I'm fascinated by neuroscience, and I've been working on my own identity change because I wanted to know, why do I have all this Bible knowledge? And not just me, but people that I have known for years and who've read the Bible. And it's like, why do we not do the thing that we know to do? We read the Bible, we go to church all the time, we shout up the church, run around the church, but we still don't do what God has called us to do. Why is that? Why do I know all this stuff? Why do I say I trust God? Why do I say I believe and I love God and I know God called me, but I still won't do what He called me to do? Why do I keep doing that? And so I've been doing a lot of studying. I've been trying to figure this out. And also my clients needed the help as well. And so all of this really helped me and I wanted to share. So again, I find this fascinating. So your brain does not know you're a coach yet, okay? Not because you're not one, but because you have been spending 20 plus years giving it evidence that you are a corporate professional or whatever your job is, right? So every meeting that you ran, every performance review that you've written, especially if you're in HR, every time you introduce yourself, you use that title, that fancy dancy title. So your brain found all of that away as that is who you are. And now you're trying to be brand new. You're trying to do something different. You're trying to be this different person. And your brain is doing exactly what it's designed to do. It is resisting this change to keep you safe. It is pulling you back toward the familiar identity. It is whispering things like, who are you to charge for all this? Who are you to do this? And you're not ready. You need to wait. You need to wait a little bit. All of that is to keep you safe. But that is not God. That is not wisdom. That is your brain running on your old programming. Now, here's the good news though. You can change it. The Bible told us how thousands of years ago. And neuroscience just caught up. So there's this concept in neuroscience called neuroplasticity. So what that means is that your brain is not fixed. It's not a static machine, basically. And it's not like us, right? Where the older we get, the more set in our ways we are, and we're like, that's just who I am. Our brain actually is not like that. It is constantly rewiring itself based on what you repeatedly think, say, and do. So, old neural pathways are the highways in your brain that run your familiar patterns and your familiar behaviors. And it can be broken down. New ones are built. This is just fascinating. I hope I explain this to where you can understand it because I know I'm a nerd, okay? I get it. I'm a nerd, and I'm hoping I explain this in a way that makes sense. And let me know in the comments if I just said a whole bunch of stuff that makes no sense. But anyway, your brain can build new pathways. And the more you travel a new pathway, for instance, the stronger and more automatic it becomes. I hope that makes sense. So let me try to break it down even more. So you can literally build a new identity in your brain by consistently acting from that identity before it feels natural. So get this. Romans 12:2 says, and we've read this many times, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Now, that word transformed is Greek for metamorpho, and I hope I'm saying this correctly. And so it is the same root word as metamorphosis. And that same word is used to describe a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? So that is not about positive thinking at all. Okay. Not at all. It literally describes a biological transformation of the brain, a literal rewiring. And he told us exactly how to do it thousands of years before neuroscience had a name for it. Like literally. Now, here is where your story and my story get really interesting. So, neuroscience tells us that the brain does not rewire at the same speed all the time, and there are specific seasons where the brain becomes highly malleable and transformation happens much faster. Now, researchers call the neuroplasticity windows, and they are triggered by high stakes transitions or strong emotion or urgency and moments where there's no turning back, like my situation, right? So think about a caterpillar. Now, inside the chrysalis, it does not gradually grow wings. I'm not sure if you knew that. And I didn't know that until I started researching this. I didn't know that it doesn't gradually grow wings. The whole chrysalis thing dissolves first, which is fascinating to me. So it literally breaks down into what scientists call a biological soup before it becomes something new. And if you open the chrysalis early to make it easier, the butterfly comes out too weak to fly. That's crazy to me. So the struggle is what builds the strength for the butterfly to fly. The breakdown is not the end of our story. It is the beginning of the transformation. So basically, your hardest seasons are your neuroplasticity windows. Your brain is in the chrysalis. It is breaking down old so that new can be built. And that is exactly when God tells you to start meditating on the truth of who he says you are. Now, Hebrews 12:11 says, no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. And later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. And that word trained is not accidental. God is describing something your brain already knows how to do. The painful season is the chrysalis. The training is the dissolving of the old, and the harvest is what emerges when the new identity has fully formed. Well, my mother could not walk, and I could not go back to corporate, and I had nothing to fall back on except God. My brain was in the chrysalis. So everything I had built my identity on or around was gone. Like she gone. And right in the middle of that, God asked me, who do I say you are? Because that was the moment. That was the moment I was most ready to become something new. Now, that's not a coincidence. That's how God designed us. So you might be asking, okay, how do you actually rewire your brain around this new identity? Because thinking about it is not enough. Waiting is not enough. And even believing it theologically is not enough if your behavior does not match. And this is where those of us in the church mess up or we get it wrong. We think we can just pray and wait for God to do stuff. No, you have to do the thing. God has already told you what to do. He's waiting on you to do it. No matter what the season looks like, you have to do it. Whatever it is, whatever he told you to do, he's waiting on you to make a move. And that's basically it. But we sit and wait and wait. We wait for everything to line up perfectly. We wait for God to swoop in like Superman and save us. And that's just not how this works. He's given us the tools and everything else we need to do it and the belief. He believes in us, but we have to believe in us and we have to believe in him and we have to believe what he says about us. So here is what the research shows. Colossians 3:2 says, and you know this, set your mind on things above, not on earthly things. Now, the word set in Greek means to direct your attention intentionally and consistently. Not once, not when you feel like it, but consistently. And we all have a problem with this consistency, right? Your brain builds identity from evidence. So every time you take an action from your new identity, your brain watches that action and files it as proof. I am a coach. So every time you avoid the action, meaning every time you avoid doing the things that you're supposed to do to prove that you are a coach, your brain files that away as proof of the old identity because you're not doing what a coach does. So your brain is, you're an HR professional or whatever job you had, right? You're not a coach, so why are you doing that? That's not what we do, but it is what we do. But you have to continually do, you have to do the thing that a coach would do, and then you have to do it consistently to rewire your brain to get proof of the new identity and so that your brain can stop working on the old identity. Okay? Again, you have to do the thing that the new identity would do, being a coach, so that, and you have to do it consistently so that the old identity goes away or is deleted from the file. Okay? So just now I had to pause recording, go help my mom, and then come back because guess what? That's what a coach does. Okay. So where was I? Okay. So research on self-perception theory confirms what I said earlier. Your brain does not always know who you are from the inside out. And I mentioned this in another video. And I thought this was, I keep saying fascinating, but I did. I think it's fascinating that your brain is watching what you do and think and say, and it doesn't really know who you are from the inside out. When internal cues are weak or vague, or it watches your behavior and then it draws conclusions about your identity from what you actually do, which is why you can say, let's say manifestation a lot, or those who manifest, or all about saying stuff and repeating things and all of that. You can't just repeat and say things. You have to actually do things. I had to stop recording again to help my mom, which means you do not have to feel like a coach to become one in your brain. Is that not fascinating? That is fascinating to me. That is just fascinating. Because listen, you just have to start acting like one. Now listen, Romans 8 and 6 says, the mind governed by the Spirit is life and peace. The mind governed by the flesh is death. The flesh here is not just sin. It is the old pattern, the old programming, the old identity that your brain keeps defaulting to because it is familiar. Governing your mind toward the Spirit means deliberately, consistently, repeatedly directing your thoughts and actions toward who God says you are until the new pathway is stronger than the old one. As you can see, there's a lot that we have to do. We can't just pray and wait for things to happen. There's a lot that we have to do in order for our lives to change. And Joshua 1 and 8 gives us the complete method. Meditate on it day and night. Do not let it depart from your mouth. Observe to do everything written in it. That is thought, speech, and action. 3 inputs, if you will, building the same neural pathway. And the research that I found confirms that combining mental practice with physical action builds neural pathways 2 to 3 times faster than mental practice alone. Now listen, Joshua 1 and 8 is not a pep talk. It literally is a neuroscience protocol that we have been reading for years. Now let me tell you what exactly this looks like in my life, or looked like in my life. Now, after I heard God say, who do I say you are? I made a decision. I was going to act like a business coach because that's who God said I was. Not wait until I felt like one, not until this hard season of my life was over or got easier, not wait until circumstances changed or any of that stuff. The first thing I did was get serious about who I was creating content for, because now I'm a coach. I stopped creating content for everybody and started creating content for one specific woman, the Christian woman over 40 who was exactly where I had been. That was a decision that a business coach makes. So I made it. Got very intentional about my content. Then I reached out to my ideal clients directly, not vague posting and hoping somebody finds me, a specific outreach to a specific woman about a specific problem I knew I could solve. That is what a business coach does. So that is what I did. My brain watched. Every single time I showed up as a coach, my brain found that as evidence. And Colossians 3 and 23 says, "Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men." I was not working for a paycheck or for a title or anyone's approval. I was working as an act of obedience, and that shifts everything in the brain because it removes the fear of judgment that keeps most people stuck in that old identity pattern. What do they say? What will they think? I don't care. I'm not doing anything for them. Slowly, consistently, one action at a time, my brain started catching up to who God said I already was. And the clients started to come. And the digital product sales started to come. Not because my circumstances changed. My circumstances are actually still the same. Because my identity changed. Because I did the work that my identity, my new identity would do. Because I did the work. I believed what God said about me. He said who I was. And I did the work despite my current situation. Okay. My circumstances are still the same, but I changed. And my brain finally had enough evidence to believe it. Please understand, you are a business coach that transforms lives. Not you will be someday. Not you could be if everything lines up. You are a business coach right now. Right now. In this hard season. God does not call you to something and then make you wait until you feel equipped and everything in your life is perfectly lined up. He calls you and then asks you to act as if he has already equipped you, because he has. He did. Romans 8 and 28 says, all things work together for good for those who love God and who are called according to his purpose. Every season, every hard thing, every moment of your corporate career, every painful event, it is all working together to produce a coach who can speak to exactly the woman who needs her. Your brain just needs to see the evidence, so give it the evidence. Listen, if you're watching this and you genuinely do not know what kind of coach you are called to be, I created a free quiz. It's called What Type of Faith-Based Coach Are You Secretly Meant to Be? That will show you in 3 minutes or less exactly where your gifts are pointing. That is a good starting point. So I will put a link in the description. And if you're listening to the Launch Your Coaching Ministry podcast, make sure to add a link to the show notes. All right. So if you've been following me for a long time, you know that I love to give you some homework. So here's your homework for today. And it has 3 parts. So first, I need you to stop running from your hard season and start recognizing it. So what is the difficult thing you are walking through right now? What is that? Okay. Recognize what that is. Because that thing you've been calling a setback is actually your setup. Your brain is in the chrysalis. That means it is more malleable right now than it will be when things get easier. God timed this on purpose. He does not ask, who do I say you are when everything is comfortable? He asks when the old identity has dissolved and you are ready. You're primed and ready to receive the new one, to fly like a butterfly. Second, I want you to choose one verse that names who God says you are and then meditate on that every day. The way Joshua 1:8 describes. Not read it once, meditate on it. Day and night, say it out loud, write it down. Keep saying it until your brain starts building a new pathway around that truth. And then third, I want you to take action today from your new identity, not from how you feel, from who God says you are. Get specific about who you're creating content for. Reach out to one ideal client. Record one video. Write one post that speaks directly to your specific client's problem. Let your brain watch you do that. Give it the evidence that it needs to see that, hey, I am a coach. The harvest comes to those who are trained by the discipline. Hebrews 12:11. But you have to show up for the training, sis. All right, so here's what I need you to walk away with today. Your brain does not know you are a coach yet because you haven't been acting like one. You haven't given it the evidence that it needs. And the evidence does not start with a feeling. It starts with a decision and then an action. The same decision that I made on the floor of the hardest season of my life, and I'm still in, by the way. God asked me, who do I say you are? I had to believe him and start doing the work. The neuroscience confirms what we've been reading about in the Bible all of these years. You are not stuck with your old identity. Your brain is constantly rewiring based on what you repeatedly think, say, and do. And the painful season that you're in right now is not slowing down that process. It is actually accelerating it. You are a business coach who transforms lives. Your brain just needs to catch up to that. So start acting like the business coach you are today and watch what God does with that evidence you give him. That proof that you believe and trust what he says. Now, if you're ready to add more evidence to you already being a coach, the next step is the Christian Woman's Blueprint to your first coaching clients. It walks you through exactly how to package your expertise into a clear offer, price it with confidence, and then land your first clients. I'll put a link to that in the description of the video and also in the show notes if you're listening to the Launch Your Coaching Ministry podcast. And sis, if you have not subscribed, what are you doing? You got to subscribe, okay? Come on and join us because every week we have this kind of honest conversation about building a coaching business rooted in faith and real strategy. I give you something to do every single week. So listen, I will see you in the next video. Did you subscribe yet? I'm waiting. Okay, thank you. See you in the next one.